A child was dying. His tribe was screaming, but nobody could say a single word. One mistake, and humanity could disappear forever, because this happened before the first language ever existed. Imagine waking up in a world where no one knew a single word. No names, no sentences, not even a simple help. Then, something moved in the grass. Nobody knew how to warn the others. A few seconds later, it was already too late. The tiger wasn't the biggest danger. The real enemy was silence. Silence made every hunt a gamble. Every step could ruin everything. One tiny sound, and the prey was gone. Days passed, with empty stomachs. And then, one stickman did something no human had ever done before. He didn't run. He didn't fight. Instead, he made a strange sound. Not a word, just a sound. Everyone suddenly looked at him, for the very first time. They understood each other. But here's the shocking part. Scientists believe that wasn't actually the first language. What if we've been asking the wrong question all along? Maybe the first language wasn't spoken at all. Maybe it was seen. A raised hand, a pointing finger, a simple nod. Those tiny movements could save lives. No words. Yet everyone understood the plan. But then, scientists found something that changed this theory forever. Buried beneath thousands of years of Earth was a single bone. At first, it looked completely ordinary. But this tiny fossil could rewrite human history, because it came from the human throat, the part that helps us speak today. But here's the mystery. Even with the perfect throat, you still can't create language. Something even more important was missing. And that discovery shocked scientists around the world. The answer wasn't hidden in the throat. It was hidden inside the mind. One tiny change changed humanity forever. Humans began remembering things that weren't in front of them. For the first time, they could imagine tomorrow. And that's when everything changed. They weren't reacting anymore. They were planning. But planning created a brand new problem. How do you explain an idea that no one has ever seen before? One night, everything changed. One curious human refused to sleep. Instead, he stared at the wall. And then, he made the first mark. Not a word. Just an idea. The others gathered around. Nobody spoke. But somehow, everyone understood. For the first time, an idea survived after the moment was gone. But there was one problem. The drawing stayed, but the people moved. How do you carry an idea without carrying a cave? That question changed human history. The tribe needed something that could travel with them, not on a wall, but inside their minds. So they tried something completely new, a simple sound with a simple meaning. And this time, nobody looked confused. One sound became two, two became 10. And before anyone realized it, humanity was changing forever. At first, the sounds were random. One sound meant water to one person, and something completely different to another. But over time, a pattern began to appear. Every time they reached the river, they used the same sound. The sound and the river became connected. And then, something extraordinary happened. A child heard the sound and understood the river without anyone pointing. That may have been the moment when a sound stopped being just a sound and became the first real word. But one word could never tell a whole story. What if the danger wasn't here, but over there? One mistake could cost every life. So humans made another breakthrough. They combined two different sounds, not random sounds, sounds with meaning. Now they could describe places. Then they described people. And without realizing it, they had taken the first step toward real language. But language didn't just change how humans spoke, it changed how humans thought. Before language, every human lived only for today. After language, they could think about tomorrow. And once humans could plan, they stopped surviving. They started building. Knowledge no longer died with one person. It could be passed from one generation to the next. That changed everything. Every city, every kingdom, every civilization began with one simple sound that finally had meaning. Thousands of years passed, and human voices slowly disappeared into history. But then, humans discovered something even more powerful than speech. For the first time, words didn't disappear into the air. They stayed forever. This happened in a land called Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and the Euphrates. Here, a new language was born. Today, we call it Sumerian. It became humanity's first known written language. But Sumerian wouldn't remain alone for long. Far to the west, another civilization was preparing to tell its story. Not on clay, but on stone. While Mesopotamia was writing on clay, another civilization was carving history into stone. This civilization lived beside a river that never stopped giving life. The Egyptians called it the gift of the Nile. But food wasn't the only thing the river carried. It carried ideas, and ideas needed a way to survive. So they created something beautiful. Not just letters. Every symbol told a story. But there was one secret, hidden inside these symbols. For thousands of years, nobody on Earth could read them. Until one discovery changed history forever. For nearly 1,500 years, the symbols became silent. Kings disappeared, empires vanished, and the meaning of every symbol was forgotten. For centuries, nobody could read a single word. Then, in 1799, something unexpected happened. A shovel hit solid stone. At first, it looked ordinary, until someone noticed the writing. The same message, written 3 different ways. One language was already understood. The second was almost forgotten. And the third unlocked ancient Egypt forever. The lowest writing was Greek, and unlike the others, Greek could already be read. Suddenly, the impossible didn't seem impossible anymore. If the messages were the same, then every symbol had to mean something. For years, brilliant minds searched for the pattern. Most of them failed, until one young man refused to give up. His name was Jean-François Champollion, and he was about to hear voices that had been silent for over 1,500 years. But one tiny oval shape held the secret that changed everything. That tiny oval wasn't just decoration. It protected the name of a king, and one king's name appeared again and again. The name was Ptolemy. If this oval contained Ptolemy's name, then every symbol represented a sound. Not magic, not pictures alone. They were part of a real language. After 15 centuries, ancient Egypt could finally speak again. But Egypt wasn't the end. Another civilization was creating an alphabet, so powerful that billions of people still use its descendants today. Egypt had thousands of symbols. Mesopotamia had complicated marks in clay. Learning these languages could take years. But then, a simple idea appeared. What if every sound had only one symbol? Not hundreds of symbols, just a few. This idea was born among great traders. The Phoenicians traveled farther than most people on Earth, and they carried something more valuable than gold. Those simple symbols would travel across oceans, reach Greece, change Rome, and one day become English. The alphabet had crossed the sea, and a new civilization was waiting. The Greeks loved ideas, but they changed the alphabet forever. They added something revolutionary: vowels. Now words became easier to read, and easier to share. Soon, another empire borrowed the idea. Rome was about to change history again. The Romans didn't just borrow the alphabet, they created the letters you're reading today. The Roman Empire eventually fell, but its alphabet survived. Across the sea, new tribes arrived in Britain. The Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes. Their languages blended together, and Old English was born. But English still wasn't finished evolving. In 1066, another invasion changed everything. French words mixed with Old English, creating something entirely new. Century after century, English kept changing. Today, over 1.5 billion people use English in some form. But every English word you speak carries echoes of forgotten civilizations. The next time you say, hello, remember, that simple word exists because countless generations refused to let knowledge disappear. From frightened prehistoric families around a fire, to the languages that built civilizations, every conversation you have today is part of a story that began hundreds of thousands of years ago. And perhaps, somewhere in the world, a child is speaking a new word today that people, thousands of years from now, will still remember.